It's just my pleasure. Can we please give Bruce Kalman, top chef, a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, on the plane ride over here, my ear popped and it hasn't popped back yet. So if it pops back, I'm going to shout out hallelujah or something when it happens. How's everybody doing? Good. I'm assuming there's varying degrees of where everybody is right now in school. Some just starting. Some I know Oscar's on his way out. Not out, but you know what I mean. No, Oscar. We cooked at the James Beard House last year, and Oscar, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name, came and helped us, and it was great. And it was probably really cool for you to experience that too. You know, if anybody's not familiar with the James Beard House in New York, it's kind of an honor to be asked to cook there. They don't pay for a damn thing, so it's really expensive to cook there, but it's an honor to cook there. And I just cooked there a month ago with a couple other guys from Top Chef, who's watching the show right now. So I cook with the Bears. We did a dinner called Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and we made porridge, because that's what you do. But I want to talk a little bit just about my trajectory and, you know, kind of how I started and going through school kind of until where I'm at right now. And I mean, I'm from Jersey, originally from Paramus, and I started cooking when I was 13. My dad's friend opened up a pizza shop, and my dad said, I didn't really have a choice. My dad's like, get your ass to work. And so I did. And I absolutely loved it right from the start. You know, I remember I was kind of, they call it the back, you know, where everything but pizzas were made, and we did all the prep, and we did, you know, all the sandwiches and the pastas and all that, and we would get into so much trouble all the time, like spraying, you know, oil fights, and water doesn't really mix really well, people fall, but it was fun. And I just like the camaraderie and the teamwork and you know, working with the ingredients. I'm not like a scholarly person. My mind wanders too much to be able to sit down and read a book too often, but I like working with my hands, you know, and for me, that's what did it for me. And looking back now, you know, things kind of came full circle for me, because through my career, I've cooked all kinds of cuisines. I've worked in all kinds of restaurants, hotels, corporate environments, everything, which I'm thankful for because I became really well-rounded because of it. But I came back to kind of my roots of sort of, not American Italian food, but I cook a lot of Mediterranean flavors, a lot of Northern Italian cuisine, fresh pastas and porchetta and some things like that. But because of my experience, you know, and I remember starting here, I still remember the first year we made fried chicken, meatloaf, all the basics, you know, and that's so important, you know, because these days, like, everybody wants to mess around with molecular gastronomy and do all this stuff, but don't know how to roast a proper chicken, you know. And if you've ever been to Barbuto in New York, if you haven't been, you should go and have Jonathan Waxman's chicken. Just throwing that out there. Has anybody ever had Jonathan Waxman's chicken at Barbuto? You need to go. Quick path train ride into the city. So from the pizzeria, I was there for a couple years, and then I worked just in the neighborhood. I worked at a pub, worked at another restaurant, and then I worked for Marriott Hotels when I was 18. Is kind of when I started really getting serious, and ended up coming here, working the whole time as well. And I remember the first year, I think it was, in the wintertime, and for the holidays, they set us up at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in New York to do kind of an internship. We were like holiday seasonal help, and they just beat on us so hard. We did all the stuff that nobody else wanted to do, like strained 40 gallons of cranberry sauce through a chinois, you know, fun things like that. And, you know, I think the thing is I was always looking to learn more and learn something new and experience something new in my career, whether it be a different style of restaurant or, like I said, go to a hotel, because it's a completely different environment. Working in a corporate restaurant group where I spent 7 years with a corporate restaurant group to learn the business side of this, because it is a business, you know. And for years as a chef and as a cook, like, it was never considered important for me to know how to, that was rude, sorry, know how to manage the business and operate a P&L statement properly, and know how to manage food costs, labor costs, all of your other operating costs, your occupancy. And so I wanted to work for a company where I could learn that. And also, I also learned about leadership. And I come from a very old school East Coast background, working in kitchens, where your options are you do it or there's the door. And that's how things used to be. And they're not like that anymore. And I'm kind of glad, but I also had to relearn how to be a leader in a different environment. And working with this corporate restaurant group, I felt like I kind of lost my soul as a chef, because I was always very creative, but I kind of put that on hold. And I really am thankful I did that, because now owning a restaurant, if you own a restaurant and you don't know even what a P&L statement is, you're kind of screwed. You know, like, if you don't know how to manage your costs and manage your money. And so super important to be just really, really well-rounded. And once I got all that base knowledge, you know, I came back around to what I really love to do, and that's cook with amazing ingredients. And you know, obviously I have my flavor profiles I tend to lean towards. Top Chef definitely pushed me outside of that comfort zone a little bit. But, you know, my style, I like very clean, ingredient-driven food. And working, I have 2 restaurants in the Los Angeles area. And anybody ever been to Los Angeles, LA, Santa Monica? So have you been to the farmers markets out there? It'll blow your mind. Like, when I first went out there, I couldn't believe it. The things that I see, even now, like year to year, season to season, the new things that the farmers have, the new things they're growing, it's mind-blowing. And it's very inspirational. And, you know, the thing I remember as a cook, because I was always very eager and always impatient. Sound familiar? Anybody? All of you, probably. Yeah, raise your hand. Yeah. And so I was always kind of very pushy, and my chefs were always like, just relax, just stay the course. Just do this over and over and over and over and over and over. That's how you get good at something. So that's the trajectory for my career. And I mean, there's a lot of stops along the way. Working in Chicago for 10 years on and off. I worked in Santa Fe, Cleveland, Phoenix, and Scottsdale, and then now ended up in California, which I love because it's always sunny, usually. I love cloudy days, though, because they're far and few between. Reminds me of home. But, you know, the great thing, one of the great things about this industry is that there's so many roads you can go down, you know? And, I mean, from the style of restaurant you want to work in to, like I said, hotels, very different. If you want to work in a corporate environment, you know, I have a new son, and, like, I want to be with him all the time, you know? And fortunately, I own the restaurants, so I can kind of make my schedule. But, you know, I've had that thought in my head. I'd love to have a job 6 to 2 Monday through Friday to see my kid, you know. And that works for some people, and it's not bad. You know, it's just what works for you in your life. You know, not everybody goes on to be, you know, a name chef and very creative. There's so many different roads you can go down. It's what makes you happy here that makes the difference, you know. And I learned that from doing so many different things. I figured out what that was. I remember my best friend from Jersey would always tell me, he's like, what the hell are you looking for? Like, you're moving here, moving there, doing this, doing that, changing jobs. He's like, what are you looking for? And I would always say, I don't know. I'm just looking, you know? And now I know. Now I found out what I was looking for, and I have it. And, you know, this is like almost like a new chapter for me. This is like the beginning of my journey. I'm about to open another restaurant. And then the group I'm working with is opening restaurants worldwide. We were just in Tokyo 2 weeks ago looking at a space. And so there's a lot of things happening right now. I also own a pickle business where I manufacture pickles. And there's big restaurant groups out there that are starting to buy them. You know, it's kind of like my retirement plan, so to speak. We call them mailbox checks. If you think there's any money in doing TV, it's a huge misconception, just so we're clear. Unless, you know, I mean, I'm good friends. Do you guys watch Duff at all on the Food Network? He and I play in a band together. He does just fine. He's kind of an anomaly, and he'll tell you that. He's like, I'm an anomaly. He just got discovered through doing the baking challenges and just happened for him, you know. But I know, who wants to be on TV? Be honest. We got one. Just one of you? 2, 3? Okay. So that's good, actually. Because what I hear a lot, just like in talking and interviewing cooks and talking to people in LA, I guess it's LA, is everybody wants to be on TV, you know? And it's great. You know, I enjoy doing it, and but it's not the first thing that I did. Like it's kind of like a byproduct of everything else you're doing. You know, obviously, if you're gonna go on and you're gonna compete or even judge, you have to know what you're talking about. You have to know what you're doing. So you have to have a good skill set, right? And so working in a restaurant is where you get that skill set. And but I see a lot of people wanting to skip steps. You know, getting from point A to Z, like without doing all the other stuff and paying their dues. And you know, I'm sure you've heard that. I know the same instructors I had, they used to beat on me. I don't think they do it anymore, but yeah, especially you. You know, but the thing I loved about coming to this school too, because I got accepted to CIA also, and the initial reason why I came here was because of the price tag. And then, but I'm glad I came here because it's so hands-on, and that's for me how I learn best. I wouldn't have learned as much if I sat and wrote reports every week or every day. And we did a lot of hands-on work. It was funny. I don't know if you call him a chef, but Paul Dillon. He took me on a tour and showed me like the ice carving room. Remember, we used to carve ice in the alley? I said, you should have painted the escape of the alley on the wall. But yeah, I mean, we used to carve ice in the alley, and we used to, you know, it was fun. And it's amazing to see so many of these great instructors still here and how this school has evolved and become what it is, you know? And you're lucky that you have this beautiful place to learn. But I mean, that's kind of my story. You know, I've kind of put in my time. I was a sous chef for a while. I was a cook for 15 years before I even took a management job. You know, and I'm really thankful I did that because I could go in any kitchen as a sous chef and throw down as good, if not better, than anybody else in the kitchen. And I kind of still can. It hurts a little bit more at the end of the day, but you know, and leading by example, I'm sure you hear that all the time. I mean, and it's true. Like, yeah, there's a lot of great chefs out there that aren't great cooks, and they don't have to be. They're great leaders. You know, leadership is a whole nother thing. But it definitely helps to get your staff to believe in you and to want to follow you and want to learn and want to like run through a brick wall for you, because you're side by side with them sometimes, and they see that you can still hang and that you can still teach them something. And so that's always been a very important thing for me, you know. You guys all know Tom Colicchio, right? Yes? No? Yes. Tom Colicchio's got a bunch of restaurants in New York. He's the judge of Top Chef. I respect that man like crazy, and I've known him for a while. And I respect him because, excuse me, with all the TV he does and he's a big activist in food policies, and he does all these other things, but whenever you go to his restaurants, they're amazing, whether in LA or here or wherever else. And consistently. And that's because he's a great leader. I mean, he's a great chef. That guy can cook amazing food, but you have to be a great leader too. Otherwise, you have to cook all the food yourself, right? So it's so important. I mean, there's so many aspects of this, and I don't want to make your head spin. I just want to say, like, be patient and soak everything in and work really hard at perfecting everything you're doing, you know, before you move on to the next thing. I mean, I know school is like, you know, you're in one class and then you move to the next, but when you get into the field and you're working in restaurants, and I strongly advise all of you to try to spend some time working in restaurants as much as possible, because that's where you really put it into action, you know? You get the knowledge here, but then the day-to-day action and the feel of the kitchen. I remember we were talking earlier, just because I had been working for 5 years since I was 13. That's all I ever did was work in restaurants, and I played in a band. But cooking was my fallback career, and because I was going to be a rock star. Now it's fun, but totally forgot my point where I was gone. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
What did you find was the most difficult part right after graduation, finding your first career?
Well, I had already been working in the industry. And funny story. So I said when I was 18, I started working for Marriott, and then I graduated and I was 20. And then I was sick of the industry working in kitchens, and I worked as a server for a year right after I graduated college. And then I got bored very quickly and realized, you know, it's okay to step away from it for a minute sometimes. I got burned out on it. I was working at a French bistro in Jersey with 2 guys from Alsace, and they used to just beat on me. And it was the 3 of us. That was it. 6 days a week. It was like no child labor laws or anything at that point in time. And I was there all the time. We would have that like afternoon break. We were open for lunch. We'd shut down for 3 hours, open for dinner. And it burned me out. And it's very, very easy thing to do in this industry is to get burned out, because you're all passionate about this, right? If you weren't, you wouldn't be here. And when you're passionate about something, you give it everything you've got, and you work tirelessly to grow and learn and educate yourself. And it's very, very, very easy to burn yourself out. And that's how the industry standard was. I mean, I remember I was the chef at Coco Pazzo Cafe in Chicago. I was the exec chef there. And the expectation of my schedule was 6 days a week, 16 hours a day. And if I wasn't there, they'd be like, where is he? I have a completely different mindset now. And I have to tell my chefs to go home. I'm like, you don't need to be here right now. Go home. You know, I know you're excited, but because I don't want them to get burned out, I'd rather you give me 5 days a week, give you 2 days off in a row, solid 12 hours each day, 10 to 12 hours. Give me everything you've got, give me 100%, and get out of here. Because balance of life is so important, you know? And I didn't practice that for a long time, for a really long time, you know? But it's hard to be happy, you know? It's hard to be happy when you're at work. It's, again, when you start getting burned out, it's because you're just doing it nonstop, and you're grinding, and you put everything you've got into your work, and you forget about everything else. And so I think that's a really important thing to try to do. You know, I know, and when I was coming here, I mean, I was working as well. So I was like nonstop. So, yes.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank you for coming here. You're
Happy to be here.
You're sick? You have a cold?
No, I'm just a little airplane congestion.
Okay.
That's all.
But
My ear still hasn't popped back.
you're here just for us,
Yes.
and you're going back tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
For coming here. Last spring, we had Anne Burrell here as part of our college lecture series.
Uh-huh.
It was tremendous, just really tremendous. One of the things that Anne Burrell talked about was really much of what you talked about, learn how to roast a chicken, learn technique,
Mm-hmm.
learn, versus wanting to be famous.
Yes.
Being excellent at what you do, practicing, learning everything that you can. Can you talk a little bit about learning everything that you can?
Yeah.
Excellent at everything that you do. And when you practice and become excellent at your craft, maybe the money will come or maybe the fame will come, but it's first about being excellent.
Definitely. I mean, there's a couple points to that. One is, so when I would work in a hotel, like I worked at the O'Hare Marriott in Chicago when I first moved there for a year and a half. There was 5 restaurants, there was catering, garde-manger, bake shop, and I worked in every single department. I was the assistant banquet chef. I would go in at my own time, and because I wanted to soak it all up, you know. And so it's like when you go somewhere, milk it for all it's worth. Get everything you can out of it. You know, at my restaurant, we do everything in house, down to butchering whole animals. We make butter, we make cheese, we make fresh pasta every day. And I've had cooks tell me they're bored, and I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, how could you be bored in a place like this? Is like a cook's dream to work in a place like that, to cook, to make that kind of food, you know. And so, you know, really understand where you're at and what your goals are. You have to know what your goals are and what your trajectory is, where you want to go. And, you know, definitely being on TV is great. Making money is great. It's all a byproduct of you learning and growing and becoming a great chef. You know, you can't become a great chef until you've been a great sous chef. You can't become a great sous chef until you've been a great cook. You know, and then, so think about just how much there is to learn about cooking. Just think about that for a second. Everybody's in a rush. I was, you know, and be fortunate if you have a chef that you're working with that's telling you to just calm down and just keep doing what you're doing and encourages you otherwise, you know. It's because it's a byproduct. The worst thing that you can do, and my point about Tom is that think about famous chefs, and I'm not going to mention, there's a couple that are on TV a lot, and I've been to their restaurants and they were terrible. And, you know, they asked me, I mean, I've done 50 interviews since Top Chef aired, and they asked me about, you know, what's important to you and why do you want to do the show? You know, is it to be on TV or, and I'm like, no, it's to get asses in seats in my restaurant. Right? I mean, that's what it's about. It's about getting asses in seats. The worst thing that you can do, I learned this when I started working with PR companies. This is a long time ago. You can promote the crap out of yourself, you know, post all these cool photos on Instagram, and then people come in and they taste the food, they're like, yeah, it's all right. And they don't come back. It's the worst thing you can do, is to promote yourself to show people how not capable you are, incapable. You know, it's better to be humble, to be in your restaurant, and I'm talking about down the road when you get to that point. Don't rush. But, you know, you want, the idea of the PR company is to get butts in seats. So, like, they equated the amount of time I've been on the show to PR dollars, and it's about $250,000 to $300,000 worth of PR is the amount of exposure that I've gotten. So imagine if you came to our restaurant and it sucked. Right? Be like, oh, he's on TV. Whoop-de-doo, you know? And so the thing is, like, if you're going to promote yourself, you're promoting a brand. And my brand is about sustainable ingredients, local ingredients, the best quality products you can find, simple food, everything handmade. And if people come in and Cisco truck pulls up, I'm not doing myself a favor. No offense to Cisco, but it's a big box company. I don't work with big box companies. You know, I work with local producers. I have one guy that makes my olive oil in Northern California. I have a ranch that delivers my pigs. Like, I don't really work with anything else. And so it's important to figure out what's important to you, you know, and you'll figure that out as you go, because you're going to try so many cool things and you're going to do a lot of things that you hated doing too, still do them, and get good at the things you hate doing, because those are usually the things that, you know, it's like I hate brunoising shallots, but, you know, I still got to do it. I mean, not anymore, but, so I think the point is, you know, don't put the cart before the horse. You know, TV, money, if you want to call it fame, is a byproduct of you being a great chef and being great at what you do. You know, I've done a bunch of shows. I did Beat Bobby Flay twice. And I remember talking to him, and he's like, I got to go. He just opened Gatto in New York, and he's like, when we're done filming, he had to go to work. Like, they don't just party hard, you know? I know a lot of those guys. Like, Scott Conant works his ass off. The guy works really hard. He's very talented. He's opening a ton of restaurants right now, you know? And, you know, really, again, it's just about your ability. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, you know, celebrities now that have cooking shows and all that. Whatever. That's a completely different subject, you know? If you want to do that, become an actor, actress, and then get a cooking show. You'd be good.
That's definitely what resonated with Anne Burrell.
Yeah.
About excellence and learning your craft
Mm-hmm.
and learning versus just shooting for the stars. You've got to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hate when people don't have a great experience about a restaurant. Not even a good experience. I hate when they don't have an amazing experience, because I always want everything to be the best it can be, you know? And so, you know, I'm always pretty forthright in asking, you know, how people enjoy themselves. I have people send me messages when I'm not there. You know, I've gotten very good at fixing things because I'm so good at messing them up, which is something you have to be okay with, because that's this industry. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of making mistakes. I tell new cooks, especially like a cook that doesn't have a lot of experience, I'm like, just be ready for the next 6 months for you to feel like you can't do anything right. And I'm like, even though I'm going to tell you, hey, you did it, this is great, this looks nice, you're not going to hear that. You're going to hear me saying, what's wrong with this, and pushing your food back all night. But I'm doing you a disservice if I don't, right? If I just say, yeah, it looks great, and sell it. Like, I'm doing you a disservice, I'm doing my guests a disservice. And so, I don't know, I'm rambling. There's so many points to know and understand, you know? Yes?
Big Top Chef fan. So I'm not going to be your 51st interview about Top Chef, but can you just give a little bit, something that stands out to you as your favorite moment, or anything you want to share that?
My favorite moment? Just so you're, like, all the shows except one that I did are pretty real. Like, I don't know if you've been told, if you want to hear about this, but like Chopped. I did Chopped as my first show. It's straight up, like, you don't know what's in that basket until they say go. Top Chef, same thing. Like, we literally, they are very good at being sneaky to where, like, we don't see anything that's going on. Like, we don't know who the judges are. They're very good. Like, if they're walking us, it's in a big, huge warehouse spaces where they build the set, the kitchen. We did a lot of stuff in Colorado outside in the snow and the rain and hail. There was a hailstorm. Yeah. But they're very good at keeping everything very separated, so you don't know who the judges are, guest judges are. You don't know what you're doing. We walked in, whoever's watching, like, we walked in thinking we were doing a quick fire, and they were doing Last Chance Kitchen. Yeah. And we had no idea, like, literally what was going on, you know? But I mean, overall, it was an amazing experience. I think the friends I made and the talented chefs that I've met and got to work with, you know, it was really cool. We just did a lot of cool things. I mean, we went to a farm and we did a team challenge with menu, putting their sheep's milk cheeses forward in every course. We cooked on a mountain. We went camping, and then it snowed 4 feet of snow the night before. I thought they were going to say, yeah, they're going to film us getting into tents and then put us in a cabin. No. We had to sleep in the freezing cold. But it was good because I won that one, so I'm okay with that. But you know, again, I mean, and that too, like going back is I cooked with my instinct, you know, and with my habits and what I'm comfortable with. And you don't gain that tomorrow. Like that just takes time, you know, and like my chefs, when I teach them how to expedite, I tell them, I'm like, this is all about how many times you do it over and over and over and over and over again. Because expediting is one of the most important jobs, besides the dishwasher, one of the most important jobs in a restaurant. Because if expo goes down, everything goes down, right? And what does it mean to expedite? You know, does it mean you're just like calling tickets and pushing food out to servers? No, you're a coach, you're teaching, you're leading, you're motivating, you're inspiring. Sometimes you're yelling, you know, but you're in control of that. And the only way that you can do that and be really great at it is to see problems before they happen. To see that this guy's firing this dish and it has the flame blasted on a pan, the pan's sitting there, but you know, knowing that for that dish the pan can't get too hot, and seeing what they do, you know, things like that, and seeing it before it's a problem. Is where you get really good at it, and that is just time and doing it over and being in the moment a million times, basically, you know. And I remember when I was in culinary school and people would speak, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a long road, you know, and it really is, but it's a rewarding one, you know. I remember when I was 26, I had my first like big exec chef job in Chicago. We opened this restaurant, and that was when I was nominated for a Beard Award. I was in every magazine. I was on the Food Network. I did all this stuff. I was 26 years old, and I was so cocky and arrogant, and it was just no bueno. And now the difference, you know, back then, I always say, like, back then I used to cook for my ego, and now I cook for people. You know, it's important to cook food that people want to eat, right? Like, and so many chefs do that. They like get in their own, they kind of work in a vacuum, and they're like, well, this is what I want to do. Even if the guests don't like it, they don't know what they're talking about, right? I'm sure some of you that work in restaurants have seen that, heard chefs say that, right? Yeah, you're laughing. And it's true, you know, and I went through it, you know, I totally went through it. And yes, I cook food that I'm passionate about, but I also cook food that I know people are going to like, you know, and I don't get caught up in crazy weird techniques using meat glue and stuff like that. Like has anybody ever heard of meat glue? Yeah. Do you guys have it here? Okay, good. I hired a chef to cuisine once. I was the chef of a restaurant, and he broke out the meat glue, and then I got rid of him. So, anyway, any other questions? Don't be shy. No? Yes?
One question. You may have answered this, and I apologize for the right retarded to your presentation today. And thank you for coming out from California.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much. But my question is, what prompted you to select Hudson County Community College as your institution?
I did talk about that a little bit, but it was presented to me as an option. I was going to vocation. I was in high school. I did the vocational cooking program, which is actually really good. And I was presented with applying to CIA and applying here. And I applied to both. I got into both schools. And initially, the price tag sent me here. And then the outcome was great because the school was so hands-on, which is how I prefer to, that's how I learn best. I loved it. So, nobody has any questions? Have you guys been in this class all day? Yeah, sorry. Yes?
Which chefs do you look up to? And out of the contestants on the Top Chef show, did anyone like stand out to you, or did you learn, pick up anything?
I learned a lot from most of them, actually. Yeah, I came back, I started like making pink grapefruit pearls and fluid gel and like cool stuff like that I've never messed around with before. I think there's a place for some of those things, you know, a little bit here and there. But, you know, obviously, I mean, I look up to David Burke. It's funny because, like, I don't know if you know these guys at all, but David Burke was a huge deal when I was working with him. He owned and the chef at Park Avenue Cafe. It was like one of the top 20 restaurants in New York at the time. Incredibly innovative guy, way outside the box thinking all the time. And then I worked with Paul Bartolotta, who was the chef at Spiaggia at the time. And he had a restaurant in Vegas, and then he got rid of that, and now he's back in the Milwaukee area. And he's the complete antithesis of that. Like, he cooks food. Tuscan rules is like 3-4 ingredients on a plate. That's it. It's like pasta with mushrooms, mussel broth soup, like very, very simple. So it was kind of nice to have those two ends of the spectrum to work with, because I learned so many different ways to do things and so many different avenues. You have to go through these things to kind of establish your style as a chef, right? And I prefer rustic cooking, and rustic doesn't mean sloppy. It's just rustic. So, does that answer your question? Also, like Tom Colicchio, I mean, he's an amazing chef. Mark Vetri in Philly is phenomenal. Some of these guys. I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of events with a lot of these guys and got to know them. And they're super, super talented. So, anybody else? You guys are like, I want to go home. Yes?
When working with chefs, what do you feel is much better? You need a chef that's on top of you, or do you need a chef that's more affable?
Me personally? I always liked a chef that was on top of me, because I feel like, in the moment you're like, this sucks. But, the thing you realize is that they care enough about you to put their time into you. So for me, like, my role is to develop my chef de cuisine, and this is what I teach them. I'm like, my role is to develop my chef de cuisine. Chef de cuisine's role is to develop the sous chefs. Sous chef's role is to develop the cooks. It's like, develop your successor if you want to get to the next level. And it's funny that you say that, because I have learned, like where I come from, like I said, everything is taught one way. It doesn't matter what motivates you. You fit into the mold or you don't. And those days are gone. Like, we don't and can't work like that. And honestly, I feel better at the end of the day when I go home and I feel like I actually taught somebody something, as opposed to screaming and yelling at them. And, I always tell them, I'm like, if I'm going to invest my time into you, I expect you to I expect the output to be there. And so really, it's like, what motivates you? Are you motivated by being pushed? Are you not motivated? Are you unmotivated by being pushed? That's what I ask my cooks, and I'm like, because the goal is that you get the results, right? And it doesn't matter how you get them, it's that you get them. And I think being a dynamic leader is super important, because that's where you learn that skill set, to be able to read people and know what motivates them, what unmotivates them, but you create a much more dynamic environment in the kitchen if you have all these different personalities and people are motivated differently. You just have to learn to work with all of them. It's like, think about like any sports coach, basketball team, you got amazing. I always go to the Bulls, because that's when Jordan was playing, those guys. I mean, imagine getting those egos to play together. That requires a strong coach, right? A strong leader. There's a bunch of egos on that court. They're amazing, but just because they're amazing doesn't mean they can play together. That's that's 100% coach. And so it's the same thing in a kitchen. It's about the camaraderie, and I hire less on skill and more on attitude and personality, because you could be the best cook in the world and not work well with my team, or vice versa. And so I feel like if you have a great attitude, I can teach you anything, So, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir.
You said before that you got burned out from working in the industry for a long time. How did you reignite your passion, and how do you keep it for the long run?
I stepped away. It only took one time. You know, everybody's different, but you know, you hear the grass is greener on the other side. Like, stepping away, you realize what you had, or what, you know, when you, it's one thing to get burned out. You're still passionate about it, right? If you're burned out, but when you step away from it, then you lose that passion and that drive, and then you get hungry and you're like, okay, I do miss this. I really want to do this. Or not, you know, or maybe it's not the right path for you. I always, like, I loved, when I was going here, the first year, the drop-off rate was 40%, because everybody's like, I love to cook. I want to be a chef. Okay, good for you. And, you know, are you okay sitting in the corner for 2 hours peeling 100 pounds of onions? Because that's what it takes to be in a kitchen, you know? There was this girl in LA, at the time she was 14, and she was doing pop-ups at her mom's house, and she came to me and was like, I want to learn how to work in a kitchen. I love your restaurant, blah, blah, blah. I said, are you sure? And I told her what she's in for, and she said, okay. And so I brought her in, and I made sure that she didn't get to do anything fun because I wanted her to really see like what it takes. And I'm like, you're entry level. So you're going to be peeling garlic. You're going to be cleaning mussels. You're going to be, you know, you're going to learn other things. But I was always that guy. If I'm peeling garlic, I'm looking here. I'm looking and seeing what other people are doing. And I'm getting an idea, you know, a sense, and like, so that I know when I go to do that task, that cool thing that they're doing over there, I'll have sort of an idea of how to do it. And she lasted about 3 months, you know. I'm surprised she lasted that long, to be honest. She's a nice girl, but, you know, I was like, listen, I had to have a lot of conversations with her. I'm like, if you want to make a career out of this and become a chef and have a brick and mortar, these are the things that you need to learn. You need to work for other chefs. You need to go through your paces. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful. If you want to do pop-ups in your mom's house for the rest of your life, you're on the right trajectory. And that's fine. I don't judge it. Like, do it. And her mom's cousin is LL Cool J, so whatever. Anybody else? Yes?
How did you go from working from one restaurant to another,
Like, when did I feel like I was ready?
no, like, how would you ask for a job, like?
It varied throughout my career. Like when I was working at Park Avenue Cafe, so I was working in Chicago. I was a sous chef at Spiaggia. David Burke was opening a restaurant in Chicago. I met David. I hung out with David. And he offered me a job in New York. So I came back to cook here. And then when I was there, a year later, a guy that I was cooking with there moved to Santa Fe and worked with a guy that he used to work with that owned a couple spots. And he was opening an Italian restaurant. And they called me and said, hey, do you want to check out Santa Fe? So, you know, I don't ever remember like looking at classified ads. We didn't have Craigslist back then, or internet for that matter. I know, right? Cell phones were like the size of this bottle. But, you know, I think the thing now is pick the path you want to go, the chefs you admire, and go work in their kitchens. You can go stage, I'm sure. You know, call the restaurant, ask for the kitchen, talk to the chef, say, hey, I'm a student, I'd like to come and stage. I think it's the best thing to do right now, is go in and just do that, because you're going to really see what's going on. You're going to get the worst jobs. They're going to give you the worst things to do, I promise you. But you're going to be there, you know. And when I was at Park Avenue Cafe, we had people, I remember there was a girl at stage for like a month for free, 6 days a week. And then they finally, until somebody quit. And then she got the job and she quit a week later. It's kind of funny, kind of ironic. But, you know, that's the best thing to do. But go in and be eager and do what you're told and have a great attitude. You know, for me, it's all about attitude. If you go in and, you know, I have cooks come in all the time that are like, I know this, I know that. Good, show me. You know, don't tell me, show me. And I care less about what they can do and more about what they want to do, what they want to learn, what their attitude is like. Because I don't want any attitude in my kitchen. No crappy attitudes. Everybody is respectful of the chef team. They you know, or they do as they're instructed. And we don't hover, honestly. Like, I don't hover on my chefs. I teach them what they need to know, and I back away. Because I know people need room to breathe. So, does that answer your question? Okay. Anybody else? No? Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.